Okay, welcome back to the Board of County Commissioners meeting, budget workshop meeting. And before we start, I do want to make a comment. We took a quick break. It is always nice to have the cooperative extension folks that provide snacks for us, and they did tonight some really good stuff. And I also want to mention, for anybody at home, they are having a few classes coming up in case you're interested. The basics of home canning, the basics of freezing and dehydrating, and tomatoes and salsa. We have some salsa over there that is really good. So in order to register for those classes, you can check with on the Cabarrus County website for the North Carolina Cooperative Extension and sign up. There are a number of classes coming up that I think a lot of people will enjoy attending. So we are thrilled now to have Dr. Carol Spalding from Rowan Cabarrus Community College, Jonathan Chamberlain, Janet Spriggs, and I know we've got Irvin Newberry's here. Are you the only other trustee here? And we appreciate all of you coming and being with us tonight, and so we're excited to hear about your budget and what you have coming up.
Thank you very much. We're thrilled to be here. We have a few things we want to talk to you about, and then you've already seen the budget request and our letter that details that, and we'll get to that in just a minute. We wanted to give you a little update on what Rowan Cabarrus Community College has been up to. This is the first ever annual report that we've done. It's in preparation for raising some money in the community, some private money. So we wanted to tell our story, and so we'll start off by thanking you for your time and attention. I know it's difficult. I think everybody's already acknowledged that. The thrill is ours to be here and to be supported by Cabarrus County in all kinds of ways. Some of it's monetary and some of it's in kind. And certainly it is a great cooperative working relationship that we have with Mike Downs and his staff. And so we want to say that we appreciate them in particular, and certainly all of the work that you all do. It's not an easy job, I know. So we'll just go to the first slide, and I just wanted to make a comment here on our largest ever graduating class this last Saturday. Over 1,000 graduates and 800 GED recipients. And our big thrust this next year is going to be on the completion agenda. We feel very strongly that it's not the number of courses that you get, but really is the completing of the certificate or the diploma or some sort of certification by industry that we think is very important. And so that's really a part of what we've always done, but we're really focusing on that. And so we did have the largest graduating class we've ever had last Saturday. And the first early college. Next year will be Cabarrus and Kannapolis time for the graduating class. But the first early college, which is a year ahead of this one in Rowan, had 41 graduates from both high school and from the community college, which is an amazing thing. The commitment to sustainability, I just want to remind you about the North Carolina Research Campus. You probably don't need to be reminded, but we did move our licensed practical nursing from South Campus to this building. This building is supported by the state and is not funded by the county. So just wanted to remind you that that fabulous building that does so much for all of our high-tech programs is not in any budget request. I know you probably know that. You probably know that our tuition we do not keep, and most of our money comes from the state. So you'll see that in the back of that annual report. We're highlighting some of these pictures that you'll see in the report. The commitment to excellence in particular talks about moving this is one of the nursing programs, and that our nursing program distinguished itself again by having a 100% pass rate on the nursing test. Only 4 colleges, universities, any other kind of school had that. And that's really, they did that while they're moving to this building. So I don't know how they did that, but that's amazing. I also wanted to let you know that in the back of this book, there's a listing of many of the accomplishments in the pages 32 and 33. And I wanted to highlight another one under commitment to excellence is that the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, which is our accrediting agency, requires that we do a quality improvement and quality enhancement program. And generally, 80% of the colleges that do that get recommendations for improvement themselves. In other words, they don't really pass that. And we got a recommendation, actually we got a commendation letter about how well we did on our program. So that was a real point of excellence this last year. Moving on to commitments to retraining, we have Bruce Potts who was one of our graduates. He was laid off from Freightliner. He was a blue-collar person. He ended up finishing his degree with us, going on to school. His story is in here, and he's now in management at Freightliner. And this is the sort of the poster child for a lot of the workforce development that we do at the college. So much with the Pilotex folks that will be celebrating, I think it's celebrating, the 10th anniversary of that big layoff in July next year. And so many of those people have come to us and actually been employed by the college. So we'll be doing some sort of a remembrance of that coming forward. We also have improved our whole intake to the college through what's called a one-stop approach, where everybody can come in and learn what they need to learn. We were able to get a $1.8 million grant, one of 34 in the United States, for the one-stop. And that impacts our South Campus specifically. We'll do some renovations on our oldest building to change the way you come into the building and how you get services. And both credit and non-credit students will be able to go to a career center, figure out what the career is, then go and sign up for their courses, so that's as a retention tool. If people know what they're really trying to do, we think that'll really help them succeed and get what they want. So there'll be some renovations, which you don't directly fund, but you'll indirectly fund, in that building coming up this next year. This is a picture of our student ambassadors. They're selected by the foundation, and they're paid a scholarship of $2,000 a year, which actually gets you quite a bit of, pays for your tuition for the year. Our tuitions went up from $39 when I got here 4 years ago to now $69. So that just shows you how much impact there has been on our students in their tuition. All that tuition goes back to Raleigh. We don't keep any of it. People think the more students you have, the more money you have. That is not true for us. But in any case, these students have done well. They've got great grade point averages, and they have gotten scholarships with us. Our foundation is going to do an incredible job, we hope, raising scholarship money this next year for our 50th anniversary, which comes up next year. The other thing I'd say to you here is that our student government won Best Student Government in the North Carolina, and that was a big, just a huge coup for them. And the whole idea of getting students into clubs and engaged on campus is another retention strategy. This is a commuter school, and so you don't have fraternities, sororities, dormitories, or any of that. You also don't have the heartache with that either, so I don't regret it. So in any case, we do need ways for people to gain leadership skills and other kinds of things, and that's behind this ask for the one-time money that I'll get to in just a minute. The next slide is a picture of the RBI, I'm trying to think what it even stands for now. It's the conference that we do. It's the second time we've done this conference, and it's on, I'll show you, it's page 24, Reemployment Bridge Institute. Rowan Cabarrus has distinguished itself in workforce development and in working with unemployed and retraining those folks. And we've done so well is that the workforce development boards and the Department of Labor came together and funded this conference last year. And so that the idea is that we would teach other community colleges and other social services agencies how to work with unemployed workers. So this was a day. 2 half days. I think last year I invited you to this, and this year it's at Embassy Suites again, and we'll do the same thing. It's a half day Thursday, half day Friday. And this year it's the same sort of sponsorships. The key to this was our faculty came to this, and they said it was the first time they had really talked to employers about what employers need. On the soft skills side, on the hard skills side, on the science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM occupations. And so that was you can talk about it, but when you really see it, you see these workers and the employers talking together at a panel, it made a big impression. So this is something that they wanted to do, and they're doing it a second year. Whether it goes on forever, I don't know, but again, I'll call your attention to that June 7th and 8th. Okay, moving on. This is our commitment to multi-campus. We celebrated the 20th anniversary of South Campus, which is the first multi-campus in the state of North Carolina. Others have joined us. There are about 20 of them now around the state. And last year, we didn't get full funding for all of our multi-campuses. And this year, if things go the way we think they will, we will get full funding for our multi-campuses. Cabarrus County has 3 of those campuses. We have 3 locations that are big enough to generate that kind of support from the state, and that will help us a lot next year too. And I just want to report some good news. Sometimes it's not so good, but this is certainly some good news. The next slide is the commitment to motorsports, and of course there's nobody more well known for motorsports than Cabarrus County. And this is the visit of Bev Perdue in October. And she had a wonderful quote, which, I just want to see it engraved all kinds of places. She says, "This community college is the template for the entire world about how you can use a community college training program." And in this particular case, we had created a special training program for veterans who were really reticent about coming on the campus, and so we set up a special training program for them in motorsports with employers and that kind of thing. So this is the same sort of idea. It's just a wonderful poster child again of the kind of work that we do for the community and for veterans and other kinds of special populations. So that part, I think, is really good. I'll also mention to you that we're doing a lot in training and development for our own people. Again, this year we are doing a teaching and learning conference that's going on now, and I have a brochure if you're interested in it. That's not it. This is it. Of all the kinds of things that we're offering our faculty. And there are people coming here from actually all around the country because we're doing certain kinds of training for clicker uses. I don't know if you're aware of those, and I'm sure you are, and those kinds of things. So we spent a lot of time on that, and we're investing in our teachers. Our teachers are not getting pay raises, again, for the 4th year in a row. And so this is our way of investing in them, giving them the opportunities they couldn't have otherwise. So it's a huge boon for us. This is the most important thing we do, is teaching, and we really want our teachers to be the best in the country. We think ultimately they will be the best in the country. They got certifications last year in online teaching. They got certifications in tutoring skills, and they learned how to teach in the Socratic method. So that we're continuing, as well as some technology. Many how to use technology for teaching, our efforts are in here. On the staff side, we have a special thrust for customer service. Janet is modeling our little pen here. As customer service is a part of one of our values, that we want to help students achieve their goals. And so we've done customer service training, we've done Microsoft Office training, and we're about ready to do budget training. So we've got much. We're automating. All of our functions now are highly automated, and our people have to be able to use them. So we have a big commitment to training internally. What we do for companies, we are now doing for ourselves. And we need it because we need people to be able to use the tools that we have there. So that's a big part of what we do. Okay, our next slide, you'll remember that from a minute ago. This is our current expense. Mike told us we could ask for what we got last year, which is what you see. And that pays for all kinds of things for us, including insurance and energy costs, our maintenance, any facilities improvements. It has to cover a multitude of things. It doesn't go very far. We make it go as far as we can. So let me talk a little bit about the one-time capital so that you may ask questions if you'd like. And we're going to go to a map so you can see it. But this $480,000 is for a little bit of an expansion. If you've been to the campus, Jonathan is circling building 3000. It's our newest building. It's about 5 years old. It has a very small food service and a very small student activities area, and a bookstore in there that's crammed. And this was built and planned before there was an early college and before there was this explosion of enrollment that we currently are experiencing. And so the early college people have to eat in a classroom, so it takes the classroom out of use, and it's not a great place to try and deal with all those students. They want more space. Currently, we have 4 portables that we worked with the county to get. And Jonathan, you can probably show them where those are. So we have 4 classrooms that are portables on a college campus. And we really cannot accommodate much. We've already moved the nursing out. We've moved the basic law enforcement out to the jail, or we will, to try and give more space. We still don't have enough space. So we think a great investment of the one-time money would be to build an additional 3,000 square feet adjacent to this student commons area, so we can have food service there and be able to feed all the people that we need to in between 11 and 2, and then it can be classrooms otherwise. And that'll give us 2 new classrooms for the short term. And then that'll help us. We think the bookstore will invest some money in their stuff, and we'll let our clubs grow and other kinds of things. So that is what we think is a very high priority for us for South Campus. We will be doing this one-stop renovation that I talked about a minute ago, which takes place in the original building, but we believe we need additional square feet to accommodate students in classroom settings and in food service settings. I think we've got a couple of other things in our letter that we addressed, which is at some point when the county goes out for a bond or some other kind of capital improvements, we want to build the next building. And that building's already, we've already got a master plan, we've got a place for it. And we think we need 60,000 square feet, and that will help us accommodate early college and an advanced technology center, which will help us train for jobs for the 21st century. I think it'll bring us up to speed in terms of what we can do for employment in this county. So that's what we're hoping you'll see. You'll also, in that letter, is a road, a secondary road. All of our exits go off onto Trinity Church. As you know, there's going to be a new intersection that's going to change the flow of traffic, and we aren't sure how that's going to work. But for safety, also, we only have one way out of the campus, so we want a back exit. We've talked to DOT about it. Jonathan came up with a figure for it. We don't expect this to be an immediate need, but we think it could actually help the property owners around that area where they could have more of a use of a road. So that's a long-term approach. We're really here to thank you for your support, to ask for what we got last year, and to talk about one-time money or future plans, whatever you would like. But thank you for your time. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Okay. I want to make a comment real quick on the one-time money. I think in your budget, you've got 100,000 in there. Is that right? Do you have any of that 480 in there?
No.
None of the 480.
That's correct.
100 of the 480.
100 of the 480. So we would need an additional 380 to move in there of one-time money to allow the renovation project that you're talking about.
That's correct.
I, for one, would be in favor of doing that. I'm not saying we don't need to make decisions tonight, but I just think as we go on, I've looked over this. I've been out at the facility, taking courses out there myself, and was out there not too long ago for a workforce development meeting, and DPI was out there with a meeting that I went to, and I think all of us can say without a doubt that having the Cabarrus campuses plural,
Right.
Has been a benefit to the citizens of Cabarrus County, and you do provide a quality education and a service that's really needed. And it really has been not just, if you look at it just in terms of education, but it's truly been an economic development issue, and you've provided a lot with the reemployment skills and everything that we really need to do to look at our workforce to help them to find jobs. So I wanted to say quickly that I appreciate everything that Rowan Cabarrus Community College does, and that I, for one, think that we need to look at doing all of the $480,000 one-time money to renovate the space. So I will, at this time, ask the other commissioners for any comments or questions that you have of Rowan Cabarrus.
Just a couple of questions. I guess that, I'm with you, Madam Chair, that what y'all done and exactly, and I want to maybe embarrass Dr. Spalding here in a second, but I remember back a couple of years ago when I was part of it, had the chance to participate in the review process, and I said, here's somebody that has done multi-campus community colleges. They have, innovative programs, and I said, so, you were number one on my list there. So you were, but you've done exactly what I thought would happen when you came out. I appreciate what we're seeing with spreading out into the community, and it's what should be done, and I appreciate that. So,
How many online classes do y'all have, roughly?
37% of our students take courses online. We have about, what courses or sections or?
If I were to go in and take an online class,
We have 6 whole degree programs online. And so my numbers might be a little obsolete, probably close to 1,000 different kinds of courses. But you're not really a player in the online world unless you have a whole degree program online.
Right.
So they're offered, 24/7 and 3 terms a year. Our teachers are trained in what's called Quality Matters, which is the best teaching methodology. Our online programs are done through Blackboard, which is a learning management system. And it's not just taking your notes and putting, I don't know if have you done an online class before?
I'm too old.
Okay, no, you're not. No, you're not.
No, I'm just saying.
No, you're not. But in any case, there are many features in this Blackboard approach where you have a textbook, you read, you have quizzes. You can take them sometimes as many times as you want, so you continually learn as opposed to just doing a test. The grades are in there. It's automated. There's a discussion board that students do. Students post their papers and send them to their teachers. There's no mail. So it's very refined. It's very good. Now, there are all kinds of qualities of that, but ours, I think, are very good.
And you also have online, you also have distance learning from North Campus to South Campus and South Campus to North Campus?
And the CBTC and the NCRC. So we have four conference rooms that can come together.
In regards to those distance learning from Rowan County, Cabarrus, and these others, you don't see a drop-off in the educational quality of the students taking the curriculum if they're not in front of the teacher?
No. I just was on a panel at the national meeting about the quality of online, and we actually did a survey because we're trying to see. And there's a difference in the quality overall when you look at grades, just strictly grades, in the campuses. CBTC has a different score. North Campus has one. Part-timers have one. Full-timers have one. One of the things we learned from that is that part-timers have a higher success rate. Mm-hmm. Now, you can go philosophical on that one. But in any case, so they're number one. Then North Campus has very good results, then South. And so online is in the middle of the pack as far as quality is concerned.
Okay. Thank you.
How many students do you have enrolled?
We have, over the year, we will serve 22,000 students. If you bundle them up in what would be called full-time equivalents, we're 7,000, sometimes 7,300, depends on the year it is.
And that's students who are enrolled in online courses or online degrees?
Online degree, we don't have very many online. We don't track your transcript on an online situation. Some places do because they don't believe that online quality is good, and so they'll mark them. And some schools will not take them as transfer. We don't mark them. All of our faculty teach both online and in the classroom. The quality is very much the same. It really is all about teaching.
Right.
So we do not mark them. So we can't go back actually and find them and track it back to say who took their entire degree online. We found one person who took their entire degree online. Most everybody does 2 courses in the classroom and 1 online. And that's how it works.
All right. Thank you.
We're taking the best of both.
Any other questions, comments concerning their request or anything about their campus? Okay, well, we appreciate you
Thank
coming.
you
We
very
appreciate
much.
you
Yeah.
staying with us a little bit longer.
Thank you for your hospitality. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys. The next item that we have is we're going to jump down to item number 10. to discuss the options for the Old Bethel School property. We'll call on the county manager and our attorney, but also we have in the audience Midland Councilman Mike Talent. Do you want to come up and join us? And David, do you want to come up and join us too? Not saying that we're going to put you on the spot, but in the event you
Mike
had
can
any
handle it.
comments, I know that as far as the TV audience is concerned, it's much better to have you on the microphone than at the back of the room. So I will call on the county manager to introduce this, please.
A few months back, we were working in the direction of selling the Old Bethel School property, and at that time, negotiations with Woodson University sort of broke down, and therefore they withdrew their offer. As a result of that, we received some concerns from the town of Midland that they were disappointed in the property not being sold, one thing, and then also the discussion that we were potentially looking to demolish the buildings. So in an effort to keep the process moving, I approached Mr. Pugh and Mayor Kitts to see the town's interest in taking on the property and hold it and use it for a public purpose or to the benefit of the community down there. And they went back and talked to their board, and they're very interested in having the building survive and be used as a public use or for public benefit, but they weren't interested in holding the property themselves. So they did further some discussion with other entities, and they have spoken again with Woodson University as well. So there have been some discussions between our staff, their staff, with Mr. Cook and the town's attorney as well. Our relationship would be directly with the town of Midland. And so we're at to a point now where they've given us a copy. We've received a copy of the potential contract between the town and Woodson University, and we have reviewed that. Mr. Cook has documented some concerns and sent it back to the town. So we're at the point now, and I'll let Mr. Cook read sort of what's going on, maybe give you an update from the legal side as well as to where we're at. But in a nutshell, we were trying to find a way to move the property to Midland for their purposes. They are not to the point where they want to own the property, but they were at the point where they want to facilitate somebody else taking it. So I'll pass it on to Mr. Cook, and he can sort of give you an input on what our concerns were from a legal standpoint, and then also just from a contractual standpoint and what those conditions may be.
The proposed contract between the town of Midland and Woodson has gone through several revisions. In the most recent iteration of that proposed contract, it basically will, if Woodson is the high bidder, if you will, and I'll get back to that in just a moment, but assuming they are, the proposed contract between Midland and Woodson would be for a sale price of $1. And the issues that the county had raised during the time that the county was dealing directly with Woodson back when we were proposing to sell it to them as the high bidder, some of those are still are retained in the Midland contract, some are not. If you recall, some of the issues that we had were to try to certainly ensure that the property would be used for some legitimate public benefit, but also to not allow it to be property that could be speculated upon by the high bidder, namely so that if it were purchased, particularly at a very modest price, which in our case at that time was $10,000, it couldn't essentially just be flipped, to someone else, and basically a third party having made a profit basically on public property. Those were the concerns that we had at the time under this most recent contract proposal between Midland and Woodson. The issues I identified and communicated to the town attorney were that the definition of public benefit as contained in the contract was very generic and included virtually any business use, aside from just being limited to something that was of benefit to the community or benefit to the general public at large. The purchase price, excuse me, of $1 at this point, as opposed to what had been discussed with Woodson at the time that the county was dealing with them. There's a provision that allows the property to be assigned to a for-profit entity that's controlled by Woodson. I'm not sure whether that really makes that much difference, so long as they maintain ownership of it, if they're a nonprofit. But it just raised some concerns about the again, about the speculative nature of the transaction. There's a provision in the contract that requires Woodson to secure the property against vandalism and further deterioration. The financial requirement for ensuring that is to be dealt with post-closing instead of prior to the closing. So I just noted that in the reading of the contract. And then finally, one of the changes in the different contract proposals has removed a reverter provision that was in the original document, which would have required that the property revert back to the town if the conditions in the contract were not met, mainly some of the ones about public use and securing it and cleaning it up and the like. So those were the issues that I identified to the town attorney that would appear to be ones that from the county's perspective, would have some importance. What the town is doing is they're going to go ahead and advertise the property and entertain upset bids, and have apparently already agreed. The town council has already agreed to do that, and I think Mr. Pugh can probably speak to that better than I can. That's the only thing they've agreed to do at this point. They haven't accepted the proposal from Woodson, and they haven't voted to accept the property yet from the county, as I understand what their vote was. But they would go through the upset bid process sort of in advance of all that to determine what might be available to them in terms of prospective purchasers. So that is where the matter is presently from a legal perspective.
Yeah, I guess so before you tonight, do you, the relationship between the county and Woodson University is no longer there due to the breakdown in negotiations. So you have two options. We can move forward and dispose of the property ourselves, or we can work with the town of Midland and let them go through the process of performing a upset bid process. And that we would pass the property on through to Midland for the purposes to benefit both the Midland community and the county, and allow them to dispose of it as they feel necessary.
Can Midland do the upset bid if they don't take the property first? I mean, I thought at some point in time that we had discussed that.
Well, there's nothing in the statute that prohibits them from going through the sale processes for a property that they technically do not own. However, under those procedures, they ultimately can either accept the high bid or reject it, so they still would retain the ability to decide whether they would in fact sell the property, assuming that it ultimately is conveyed to them by the county. So, I know it may seem to some degree, like they're getting the cart before the horse, but I think they were trying to see what else was out there if they did take the property. So when Anthony Fox, the town attorney, and I talked about it and talked about the sequence of events here, that certainly with the statutes not prohibiting it, there would be no reason not to let them go through that exercise if they chose to do so. If the sentiment of the county was to go ahead and convey it to Midland, then they could see what there was out there for them in terms of options or prospective purchasers.
The provision that if everything's not upheld, as far as, the provisions of the contract, and it reverts back to, reverts back to Cabarrus County or the town of Midland?
Well, in that case, it would revert back to the town, but that provision's no longer in the proposed agreement.
Okay.
And in fact, just to be clear, we did not have that type of provision in our proposed agreement with Woodson either. We had some different, we basically had a provision that required them to hold it for a period of time against, some sort of speculative purpose and to do certain other things to the property. But I think the feeling on the part of the county was that that remedy of getting it back wouldn't be what we would necessarily want. It's just that I noted in their original proposal between Midland and Woodson that they had placed that in the document, which certainly, from the county's perspective, I was comfortable with.
Yeah. So will it revert back to the town, assuming that this
Not under the present.
It will revert back to the county?
It wouldn't revert back to anybody.
Okay.
It would
Whoever
be an absolute conveyance.
Whoever buys it owns it. It don't revert back to nobody.
That's correct.
So there's really there's not any, basically, there's no stipulations on what they can do with it. Where the county had $10,000 with all the stipulations on it to where they couldn't do anything with it. Now we're gonna give it away for $1 with no stipulations on it.
Well, the document between the county and Midland hasn't been completely worked out. There would be, certainly, there would be some stipulations, and most of those would be what would be ultimately contained in the Midland document. In other words, we'd want to put the stipulations that they're putting in their agreement with the end purchaser in the county's agreement with Midland.
Why don't we just take the stipulations off the original agreement and let them have it for $10,000?
That is an option.
What's the value of the land raw?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think that
Mr. Wiesner, do you know what the property of the value of land is raw?
It's more than $10,000, I bet you.
oh,
Yes,
much
sir.
more. The tax value, I think, wasn't it $1.5 million?
There was an appraisal
Brent?
done approximately, 6-8 years ago. It was 1.6 million.
The land?
Yeah, about $1 million of that was land.
Okay, I mean, so we're leaving $1 million on the table. If we just tear it down and hold it, we can sell it. And we can make.
Exactly, and that,
Yeah.
what the last discussion we had was
Okay.
that the cost of getting it to raw land is going to be in the
A lot.
ballpark of $1 million, $1 million+.
Right, but it'll break even, and then we got usable land that's going to be taxable when it's sold to a for-profit business as opposed to nonprofit. So it gets on the county tax rolls and earning money for the county and the city, right?
Depending on who buys it, yeah.
Right, I mean, if it's sold to for-profit, we
Sure.
get taxes off of it. It's sold to nonprofit, we don't get anything from it, like we're not getting anything from it right now.
Right.
And commissioners and County, I just wanted to make one thing clear real quick is, while there might not be restrictions in the actual document that is sent to staff, the restrictions for the use of the property come in the Town of Midland's zoning ordinance and how it's zoned. It's currently, that whole property and even across the street are currently zoned civic. And in the Town of Midland, civic is basically the most restrictive zone that you can almost have. It's mostly for schools, educational purposes, hospitals, things like that. I don't have our book of uses in front of me, but it is very restrictive as far as what can happen. For example, whatever the third party is, if they intended to put a school there and all of a sudden they wanted to put a McDonald's there, that wouldn't be able to happen because that's not allowed on that land based on the zoning use. So I just wanted to make that clear to the Commission.
The continued discussion was because of the interest or the concern voiced from the Town of Midland about the preservation of the building, and that's why this direction was explored.
Right, I understand that, and I would like to preserve the building, but if I have a hard time giving away the building and the property for $1 when it's valued at $1 million. The land is valued at $1 million.
And that was our concern too, the $1. We were going to propose that it go back to the $10,000 for a minimum bid on the upset bid. And that was the original deal. So if that's off the table, then we can proceed and go through the process.
So it'll cost, roughly $1 million to tear down the building.
That's based on estimates from our generals, because of the environmental issues that need to be abated prior to demolition and then the actual demolition.
Okay. We don't know what the current tax value is.
Right now, it's 0. We own it.
Okay. There's not, I guess the appraisal.
So there's no
yeah, I
taxes.
guess that's what
Well, there is an assessed value that's
Right.
been assigned to it, yes.
Okay, and that's what,
Is that with the revaluation?
Yeah, we can get that for you pretty quickly, so.
I think that was before the revaluation, the figures I had.
I got a quick question. Okay. Tear it down. My figures, as I understood, it was 1.25 million. All right, that's $1.25 million. 10 acres. Don't take a whole lot of math to understand that you're saying that's $100,000 per acre. I don't know in Concord, but in Midland, there ain't no way in this universe you're getting $100,000 per acre. Okay? That don't happen. At the most, you're getting $50,000. All right? 50,000, 10 acres, that's 500,000. All right? If you're going to pay 1.25 million to tear it down, and most you can sell it for is 500,000, looks like to me that's $750,000 you're going to cost to tear it down.
I don't believe it'd take $1.2 million to tear it down.
Well, even at $1 million, even at 750,000, you're still spending $250,000 more than it's worth.
Oh, I'd rather see somebody take it and keep the building and redo the building and use it for something. But to give it away for $1 when we had 10,000 and with all the demands on it, now we're going to give it away for $1 with no demands on it, really don't make sense to me.
well, the first time that we went through this, I received emails and phone calls, and I'm sure most of you guys did, from citizens in Midland, and they wanted to see the building remain or save, and I think this would be an approach to, this would be an avenue to take to allow that to happen. If the town of Midland has it, and they decide where it's going to go and they make the decision, that's the group that will make the best decision closest to the citizens whose community it's going to affect the most. And I certainly.
Well, my biggest problem is this. This school has almost been vacated for 10 years, okay? We should have had a plan in place before the first day at the new Bethel School, okay? Should have had a plan in place. The ball was dropped. It's not a time to be pointing fingers, okay? Right now, we've got a school sitting there that's rotting. Every day that we're not doing something with it, it gets worse, okay? If we don't do anything with it today, tomorrow, we've got more to work with as far as deterioration, all right? We have an opportunity before us today okay, to take a $1.25 million albatross off of the county's shoulders and give it a chance, okay? That's all that we're asking for is a chance, all right? The town of Midland, we cannot afford this building, okay? We don't have the tax base to afford it. That's a cut and dried, okay? We've got 2.5 total employees in our entire town. This is half of our staff sitting here, all right? We don't have the money to afford that building, and the only reason we're involved in this is because of the breakdown of negotiations with a third party. Now, I don't see where bringing Woodson into it is that much of an issue at this point, because upset bid, if some qualified group comes in and puts $2 on the table, $2 is as good as $10,000. For that property, you could put $100,000 on the table. But the reason it's $1, it's a token gesture for one simple reason. Why take money from someone that's going to be investing it into our community and putting it into the town's budget? David, how far is $10,000 going to go? Nowhere. Same thing, if you took $10,000 and sold that property to anyone in Cabarrus County, what would that do for your budget? Would it be even worth putting it on the paper? No. Okay? So $1 is just as good as $10,000. The reverter provision, the reason we don't want it back to Midland is the same reason the county don't want it back. Okay? We want it to get the best opportunity to be used for the public good, and we don't want it back. We want it to move forward. We want it to be a one-way movement and for it to have its best chances. All right, we got to deal with something now. It's time, because if it don't get done today, it's going to be torn down. And if it's torn down, it's not going to be good for anybody.
That's the tax information there now that Mr. Weister pulled up. Total parcel value is $794,410.
Okay, I want to say one more quick thing and I'll be quiet. All right, if there's anyone that does deserve some consideration in this, it's that value put right there, because how in the world can you value that the buildings, okay? Those buildings, when you have a house that is falling down, you can't go in and say, oh, it's a 2,000 square foot house, but it's falling down, all right? The guy's already been out here twice to look it over. He's going to condemn the place, all right? That's basically what my understanding happened there. They took a square footage and multiplied it out by some figure. I don't know where it come from. But that right there, when it says that that building is worth $877,450, I believe.
No,
That's
it's
prior building.
All right, what is it now then?
the building itself.
Oh,
is
$740,000.
283.
All right. It's $750,000. All right. Those buildings are not worth that. There's no way they're worth it. All right. We've got an opportunity to give this property a fighting chance. All right. That's what Midland's asking for, is to give it a chance to be used.
So if Midland sells it, y'all would not have an objection, since the value of $10,000 is not significant, to revert that back to the county?
I'll give you the dollar.
No, the $10,000 or whatever is, sir?
I don't understand your question.
Well,
then.
your statement was that $1 is not significant and $10,000 is not significant either to the county or to the city's budget. So my question is, if the property sells for $10,000, would the city revert the $10,000 for the purchase price back to the county?
If he's asking if I'm correct in summarizing, Commissioner White, what you're asking is if the county, or if the town, if we only sold it for $1, would we give the county back $999,000?
No.
Or excuse me,
What I'm saying, if the city
$9,999.
sells it for $10,000, would the city revert the $10,000 back to the county?
In other
If
words,
it's not a
He's
significant
saying
amount of
whatever
money?
you,
Whatever you sell it for.
If we sell it to you for $1, then whatever you sell it for, that amount comes back to the county versus coming to Midland.
If that's
what he's trying to say.
if that's a
I think.
stipulation that you've put on this, that you put on the contract, then that's something that the town council will have to take in consideration and then to vote on, because we cannot answer for the
No,
town
but
council right now, and that's not something that we've been asked.
I can give you this thought, okay? I think we would be willing to consider $9,000 $499. Because you done got $500 from a third party already, okay? You've got your $500 towards your $10,000, so that leaves $9,501 that we would owe you at that point.
Well,
Okay, or whatever we sold it for. Because like I said, I didn't mean to be flippant about the money, but as far as towards the value of that property, it's not anything I would consider to be an issue.
Well, I was going to suggest that if you want to, without reverting the money back, is that rather than reverting the money back, I thought about this earlier today, if that money would go into the fund, we talked to Mike about it, or go into the fund that would start the seed money and start the money being saved for the development of the Rob Wallace Park in Midland,
Got a problem
which would
with
be
that?
county park.
I mean,
It'd
it's
stay in that.
very reasonable to use any funding that's left around to use for a good noble purpose like that.
And I've been kind of sitting here silent because I've been involved in this thing from the very beginning, back in 2003 or 4.
I think it was
And
3 when
we've
it
been,
started.
to this point, multiple times, we've had suitors, we've had buyers, we've had people that want to preserve it, people, as far as I'm concerned, whatever, I know that we'd be, I understand the concerns about the property has value, and I bet the value of just the headaches that we've had over this, over the last 9-10 years trying to get this thing moving. I'm just ready to say whatever we need to do to get it moving. If we can, I think that idea of if it's sold for more than $1, then it comes back, that comes back to the county, or it goes into, like I say, we agree to put it into the fund for the Rob Wallace Park for its eventual construction. Good idea. That way that way the money stays down there in the Midland area. If it, and I'm, on the other side, I'm not one to want to tear down historic buildings, although I know that there's every day that's passed since 2004, the building has gotten less and less inhabitable, and the cost of restoring it is going to be more and more and more. So,
Well, I agree with Commissioner CARRUTH. I think we need to move forward with this, and, I think that, we have a party that's interested, we have an opportunity here, see the property move forward. I think that, we need to act on it and do something about it.
And Commissioner, to speak to your point, while the reason we're up here and the reason, I've been talking to Mike back and forth is to get some, because the county still owns the property, obviously, so is to get some direction, have a reaction from the commission, and then if the town of Midland town council needs to go back and re-examine anything, then they definitely will, or if the direction is to have your staff, our staff, or a combination to go through the upset bid process, that's why we, wanted to come up here tonight and to discuss this with everyone, just to see what it is, if we do move forward, what the process will be.
I think the cleanest process, if you choose to do that, is the county just do the upset bid process, and we'll just move on, and we won't need Midland.
We don't need to put them in the position
Right.
of having to deal with the upset bid.
We can do it ourselves. And then you guys can decide if there are conditions or no conditions.
Then we don't need to vote on it, right?
We need to give instruction to county staff
To have an
as to
upset
what we
bid.
want to do,
Put it back on the
so that we
market.
can get moving on this. We need to do something with this property and
In
get
order-
rid of it.
Just put it back on the market, put it back out for bids.
minimum bid of $1.
That is an option, yes.
Minimum bid of
So,
$1.
do anybody want to make a
Minimum bid of
motion?
$1.
We'll
and-
entertain a motion from commissioners.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, if I can ask your attorney a question really quick. The upset bid process is different from putting it back on the market, is that correct?
You don't have it, you don't.
We can put it out there with a minimum bid,
Sure.
just like we did the last.
Okay, I just wanted
And
to.
then.
I would make a motion that we place this property up for sale with a minimum bid of $10,000, no restrictions.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion?
Well, I'm worried about the 10,000 amount. If, I certainly hope that, an offer would be made, for the 10,000, but I don't want to deter no bids. I guess we can go back and lower the 10,000 amount.
Well, my intent is that if 10,000 was offered before, it'd be offered again,
Okay.
is what I'm looking
Without
at.
the conditions removed.
Right, with the
And,
conditions
yeah, take
removed.
take the conditions off of it.
Yeah.
And
That's my thought, Commissioner
feel-
Measmer, is what I was thinking, is that certainly if it was valued at that before, it'd be valued at that again without the restrictions.
Okay, just to clarify, we would do it as an upset with bid process. We have to do it as an upset
Right.
bid.
Yes, yes.
So-
We'd have to go through that process. You can put a price on it to start out with, then you'd have to go through the upset bid process from that and just advertise that and give some, if there is an offer at 10,000, you just advertise that and provide a period of time for someone to attempt to upset it. I think it's 30 days or whatever it is in the statute, but,
Okay, so my question would be, what period of time are we going to have this out for, hopefully, at least one initial bid? Do we need to put a time limit on that?
I would say,
I don't think so.
I know that there needs to be some advertising, or whatever the normal advertising is, and I think the bid needs to be closed by, is June 30th too early?
no. Plenty of time.
Okay, then we have, the bid closes at noon on June 30th.
Okay, so let's restate your
My
motion just
motion
to
is to
make sure
place this
everybody
property,
knows.
place the old Bethel School property up for bid pursuant to whatever the general statute is. I don't know, Mr. Cook. Anyway, pursuant to the statute.
160A, 269, I think.
160A, 269 et sec, which would encompass whatever statutes that need to be encompassed in regards to the upset bid, with a minimum bid of $10,000, with the bids to be, bidding to be closed as of June 30th at noon.
29th, please.
29th?
Yes, it's a Friday.
Okay, 29th.
And authorize the chair to sign the appropriate resolution
Yes.
to that effect?
Yes.
There has to be a resolution
Correct.
adopted by the board.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so there is a motion and there is a second. Again, any other discussion?
I have,
Good.
well, I was wanting another consideration, but I'll make this a separate motion, so. I have another
Okay.
thing to consider, but I want to just make this second.
So we have a motion and a second on the table.
One thing that I thought it was abundantly clear is no restrictions on the sale.
Yes, you did say that
Okay.
as part of your motion. That will be in the document.
I think Mr. Pugh has-
Yes,
I
sir.
just had a quick question for legal counsel. If it's going through the upset bid process, if someone bids, who would they be upsetting, or am I misinterpreting that?
My
We would
intent-
get a bid, and then
Whoever
if
the
we
bid
got a
is.
bid, there would be 30 days that somebody
Okay,
could
so
upset
someone
it.
does need to give it an initial bid?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I think that's what he was
If
contemplating.
party, my intent with the motion, if party A comes in and bids $9,000, it's not a bid.
Okay,
If party A bids $10,000, then that's acceptable.
okay.
And then we go through the upset bid process so that party B comes in and bids $10,500 or $11,000.
Okay, gotcha,
see?
understood. So there does. need to be
Whatever,
an
I don't know how the
individual
statute, if it has to be, I think typically it's incremental by 10%, but I'm not certain. We don't have to get into that. but
Yeah, it's
That's my,
5%.
Yeah.
okay, 5%. So
Where's it?
the intent is, there has to be a bid of at least $10,000, and then the upset bid would be $10,500 or more, and then going up from there, 5% is the amount.
Let me just mention one other thing. I think that the restrictions you were talking about were, whether it be a prohibition against selling it within a period of time, or a revert or something like that, but we certainly would want to put in that the property is being sold as is, where is.
Yes.
And with no warranties, except warranty of title. And also, that certainly any indemnification for any environmental issues on the property, that would be dealt with by the purchaser.
Right,
So,
well, I thought that
just
would be
wanna
the
make sure-
resolution, and then I also
Yeah.
would think that with what Mr. Pugh said was, the zoning is civic, so if it's civic, then that certainly was going to have the restrictions of our biggest concerns in the first place, is that if it gets sold to another buyer, the intent is it's going to be used for civic use, or public use.
That's correct, yes.
Well, of course, somebody can always go through rezoning, which would be their
That's
decision.
exactly right.
Once it
And
was sold.
I think the town's intent is to keep the property and keep it as a civic purpose. So if they change it, then I agree. We have no control over that.
I was just pointing that out. And in the unlikely event, or not unlikely, in the event that there isn't a bid by noon on June 30th, then 29th, then this will come to us in the July meeting for us to work session
Right.
to make a determination of some other kind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just to make sure, I want to point that out. We're planning on getting a bid. Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. If I don't have any other things that I need to correct, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Okay, motion carries.
Madam Chair, and what I would like to do is, I don't know whether we need to make a motion to vote, but I would like, as I pointed out, that we use whatever the proceeds from this sale we put into the fund for Rob Wallace Park, so that
I'm sure that once we get to that point
Okay.
and we find out what money's there, we can address it
may
at
not
that
be
time.
much, but it's
I
still.
mean, I think that's the consensus of this board,
Yeah.
unless I'm crazy. I mean, I think that all
Yeah.
the members of this board thinks that that money needs to be applied to, or help out that part of the county. So whether it's Rob Wallace or something else down there.
Okay. Next item that we have is closed session. And after closed session, we will be recessing this meeting to Tuesday, May the 29th at 4 o'clock to continue our budget meetings. So at this time, I would accept a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, and have a good evening.